Call the meeting order. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you get the updated one this morning? Explaining a little bit more about the...
I think it's in the...
It's in the main packet.
Okay.
Well, it's yesterday's from 420. There was an updated one today, though.
Yeah, I thought it came with that 10.
Oh, okay.
I got the one that come yesterday and the day before, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
I guess I haven't looked on my email earlier this morning.
Does that in the meeting?
Well, basically, the legislature put a stop, they took out the word significantly, that will significantly raise taxes, and the comment was on, since that quote was attributed to KAC, why didn't they talk to KAC before they took the word significantly out?
Yeah, I bet they didn't do that to anybody else's testimony. I mean, what's Montgomery County if they lose 40% of their valuation? Is that significant? It's got little concern how sneaky they're doing this and misinformation is happening.
Yeah, it was yesterday. I just had one from yesterday. There was one thing up somewhere happening for 18 hours.
I told my chairman if you had room to put those just little short points in there to by people why that's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
I got this here yesterday, Mike House, gives them that.
Oh, yeah. Is this what Austin?
Yeah, that's okay, that's where I got mine.
Yeah.
He can figure out what he wants, and if that's the way he wants to go, or whatever.
Well, I think that's,
I got the one before I write one, that's a nice little building.
to me, that's significant because all you gotta do is build your, come up a couple feet with what do you call it? Footing.
I would think that he'd want a little bit wider, maybe for the walk-in door and garage door.
Yeah.
That way, maybe down the road, that's what you do.
What'd you do? Did you pull that out? What are you laughing at?
Oh, the
Color.
it's a little early March for that one.
You talk about the Pope, my grandson, well, he's 9 months old, they knew something wrong with his blood, they couldn't figure it out, and it could either be something minor, or it could be something serious, and it turned out to be that it's a genetic
Did you, anybody update you on the, he can get a grant to do the building repair?
I was reading that, it's separate.
Plus, still get that other building free.
Oh, okay.
So,
We got two.
we got two buildings, and that way, and then including that, he can get the equipment, like the aerosol cans, the lead, and that can go in the iron box, you can get the scarring, do that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat what they do, the Jackson County, when they come down for the, spring cleanup, that's what he does, you know, special things and stuff. Nothing too bad. And they secure stuff in 55-gallon drums when they transport it, well, that's the cans. Yeah, other than that, entertain motion to approve the minutes as written for Monday, March 11th. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Agenda stuff, David. How long we need for, solid waste here, Chase?
Depends on how many, people, so, not,
Okay.
so.
Okay. I didn't entertain a motion, we open up for solid waste hearing.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Jim Wolf.
Jim. Okay.
I live on the outskirts of Nortonville, County Line Road, 206th Street, right across the street from the United plant there in Nortonville.
Okay.
It used to be Fonsteri. I'm a state employee, purchasing agent for the Department of Corrections. So I'm pretty familiar with some of the billing and all that kind of stuff. One thing the state regulations is you never pay for a service you're not provided. I'm currently paying, Dusty Northville, City of Northville for hazardous waste disposal. I'm copying the bill right here. And I'm not using Atchison County waste disposal at all. However, Atchison County is quite a bit cheaper than what I'm paying Northville. So I'm not averse to changing. I can cancel my solid waste transfer over to Nortonville. But that would mean you guys would have to send a truck all the way down to 206th Street every week. I think it would probably be cheaper for you guys to waive the fee than to have to start sending a truck out there.
And we don't have, actually, we do not do direct hauling, it's all,
That's just
it's all
operate
privately
the
owned.
transfer station.
Yeah.
What is a transfer station? It's just.
That's where, trash is collected in the
Oh, I
county,
see.
and it's transferred to, currently it's transferred to Topeka, the waste management facility down there, I think it's simpler.
But it is for the disposal of the household waste,
Yes,
which is not being collected at my house anyway.
correct.
And no one has that, people bring their own hazardous waste,
It's not,
The city of Nortonville has it every year. They have a deal where they bring in bins and they have hazardous waste disposal and do it right there at the city. I've never been to the Atchison County landfill.
and the way that the fee was, was set and structured, it's based on, property type and, is there any, is it is a livable structure that you're living in?
Yes,
Is that
it's your
correct?
farm
It's
residence.
your actual residence?
Yeah.
So you live at the farm there, where the farm there?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's my wife's grandfather's house.
Think about starting up there.
No. Way too much work.
Well, they had good facilities there.
Yeah, they do.
And we got several, property rights, we have several borders that border along, other towns or other cities or counties that we've had that, to this point, we've held since the way it's assessed, and we have a solid waste committee that's working on evaluating that for 2014.
I would think that would be more fair to have a user fee for those who go directly to the landfill, and then you would have all the addresses for everybody who uses the waste disposal, so it would be pretty easy to determine who should have to pay that fee or not.
Mm-hmm. So you're suggesting like a tipping fee?
Yeah, if you go to drop off a load up to Wasteville, it'll be a $5 fee every time they do a load or something like that. But, it just seems unfair that I don't utilize it all, I'm being assessed a $61 fee for something I don't utilize.
Yeah, and that's, the difficult part is we were trying to to figure out ways to fund our solid waste, and we went through a study that had talked about several different ways. One was tipping fees, other was property taxes, another version was solid waste fee assessments, which other counties in the state of Kansas have gone to. You're seeing somewhat of a trend into tipping or solid waste fees or pay as you throw. Yeah, a combination. Yeah, generally those.
It just seems a lot more equitable to do something that way than bill everybody in the county's blanket fee for not necessarily using the services at all.
Well, now there is different rates depending on how much. If you have like a dumpster and the frequency you picked up, we have a formula that we used based on that solid waste study. That if you have like a dumpster, a certain size dumpster, and the frequency of pickups, it correlated with more trash. So like your $61 fee was like an actual like residential fee. There are some like businesses or something like that maybe with the frequency was like a $122 fee, or it will vary depending on how much they're throwing away in the frequency of.
But what I'm saying is, my waste disposal in Atchison County is equivalent to that of a vacant house, because there's zero. Do you assess taxes to vacant houses?
But it's not a vacant house.
No, it's not, but
So that's one of the criteria that we have.
Yeah.
If it's a vacant house or vacant lot, it meets that criteria for that.
But my utilization of the services is exactly the same.
I don't think that's one of the criteria. I mean, because you live in the county, you have access to it.
Correct. Now, and one thing that we did discuss with houses that live on the borders is, because we do have quite a number of them that are close to Northville or close to Horton, and do we start exempting the ones that are on, where do we put this new threshold of, okay, this person does use it, this person doesn't use it? Do we go through that process and open ourselves up to, if you live on the county border?
I understand it's a complex issue.
So, I don't know if, because you have provided receipts of services that you do pay for your trash, and they don't go to Atchison, there's.
So we have no way to monitor either. We know that you got service, but we still have no, anybody can say they don't go there, but, an individual can go there, dump it, we don't keep track of an individual, so I mean, that's the cloudy area that we're in on this stuff. And this committee is looking at it. I mean, I think they're looking at whether there's, this is really a very prevalent way of doing solid waste. Tipping fees comes in second in terms of popularity. We don't have actually the capacity to do tipping fee without major renovations at this point. It's not to say that we wouldn't, consider it as far as that goes, so, but,
I have to work for the Kansas Structural Industries Program. We manufacture all kinds of different things. One of the things we manufacture for all the state wildlife parks, they have the self-pay stations. We manufacture those for them. Maybe you can consider doing something like that. We provide envelopes and have a chart there with the fees, and this is the idea.
yeah, well, I think it's good. I mean, I plan on, fellow commissioner friend, Brown County has a tipping fee, and I plan on going up to kind of see how they run a tipping fee. The people in the county have a little problem with tipping fee because it's pretty easy to find somebody's ditch to dump it in rather than go pay a fee.
Yeah, I can see that. Great problems.
So, there's no perfect system.
Sure.
The perfect system is everybody take care of the trash, and if you dump in somebody's ditch, you get fined enough that you won't do it again.
Absolutely.
And, so.
All right.
This, maybe not directly to me, but the bill you have there from the city of Nortonville is just to take it is to pick it up and take it to their transfer station. So you're not paying their taxes that support their transfer station, although you're utilizing the service in there.
They don't even know.
You're paying for a service to
They don't
pick
even
your
know.
trash up.
Where does yours go to?
Goes like ham. Or no.
Well,
Fall is
so
down there.
it goes to their landfill.
Hands, well, he does Jefferson County. I don't know what Norton.
No, they didn't even like own anything. Like completely
Jefferson
outsourced.
doesn't have a transfer station.
Yeah, completely outsourced.
It's not supported by taxes at all.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Sure. Well, yeah, they have to be.
Right, and so that's not included in this bill.
I haven't
They would have to, Jeff, they'd have to, they can't, somebody would come in and haul their trash off from that.
But if they're charging a tipping fee to the haulers though, then you may not have.
Well, if they're, yeah, but it's still, yeah.
I can relate to what you're saying, 'cause I live south end of town, and I've never been to landfill once, and I'm 60 years old. But where do you draw the line? You know, okay, I don't haul trash, okay, I burn my trash, I take care of my own trash. Where do you draw the line? That's why we just kind of come up, and this was in the works when I come aboard, that it's not fair to some, but it's the most fair thing to come up with, fair enough.
I appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you for coming out.
Can I make a statement?
Yes, are you here?
I'm in the street today, and, was there not a tax passed in '98 for, to take care of this, for everything we're talking about?
I think you're probably 93, 1% sales tax.
Right.
Yes, there's a 1% sales tax. It's, some of the monies of that 1% sales tax are being used still to fund our transfer station. What we've seen in the last, I don't know, is it 10 years? It's been 10 years.
About 10 years.
About 10 years, because of the way that the 1% sales tax was written as an interlocal agreement, instead of legislative action. The 1% sales tax somewhat ambiguous, so cities couldn't withhold that sales tax, portions of that sales tax. And so what it's done to the county in the past is, well before my time, it would create shortfalls in revenues. Now sometimes the expenditures would be extremely high, which are getting pretty well scrutinized. You know, we've kind of been hammering down what costs to haul our trash out. So what it truly was looked at was, you know, those shortfalls in revenues and major changes we've got coming in legislation as far as trying to fund our trash. We did a study jointly with the city of Atchison in 2010. And one of the ways to fund the solid waste, which is a trend you're seeing across the state, which you probably heard a little bit of, was solid waste fee assessment. And so what you're seeing in 2013 was for the 2012 year, but what you're seeing is a solid waste fee that covers a portion of the transfer station. So we do have a committee. We haven't really had a true solid waste committee formed in the past, and it kind of came out end of last year when we were getting into the solid waste fees. And so we have a pretty broad spectrum group of business owners, governmental entities, and so what they're looking at for 2014 and beyond is ways to reduce that solid waste fee, eliminate solid waste fee, go to different funding sources, and look at some different alternatives. So, I mean, in a nutshell, it's kind of how we've gotten here where we're at. And on your property, I'm assuming residential, just a residential property. The $61 was based on a 26 cubic yards in a year is about the average of what trash that's generated in Atchison County. And so and that was from the study. We had a company called Heineke LLC determine that. And so that's where the $61 per 26 cubic yards generated annually is where that $61 assessment fee came from on your property.
Okay, well, I'm put on myself, I don't have any trash, and I'm coming out in the country, so I burn. I have no trash whatsoever. But if you're going to start charging, will you come to my house and pick up my trash, since I'm going to be charged for trash?
At this point, we don't have any plans to run a utility service where we pick up the trash. I mean, the $61, and if you heard earlier, you know, businesses or residential that have like dumpsters, you know, larger containers that are generating more trash, it's a different amount. So that $61 base rate for 26 cubic yards, you know, it's still only covering a portion of the cost that we have to operate the transfer station, and at least through 2013, you
You have no cans or anything?
No, I live by myself, and what paper I get, I burn. But what I'm wanting to know, what really concerns me is where all the money's going, because the 1% tax that was passed for, the whole area to pay it, where's all this money going? Is what I just don't understand. I mean, I know you told me, but I still, it's having a hard time.
It's going into services, it's not just disappearing. I mean, it's, the cost of everything has gone up significantly. I mean, it doesn't get any cheaper with freight. Obviously, freight to haul trash versus even 4 or 5 years ago has gone up significantly. I mean, it's still going to the funding sources. It's just that it costs a lot more to operate those resources.
What you're really saying, a tipping fee would be fair for you.
A tipping fee.
Because if you don't go, you won't pay them. If you don't go, you won't pay them.
Pay if you use it, if you don't use it, you don't pay.
At the transfer station, when you haul your trash, you would have
I don't go to the transfer station.
I can't believe you don't have any cans. I burn pretty much all mine. I take about 1 sack a month to the dump, just cans and stuff. The rest of it I burn and stuff. So I appreciate it. That's one advantage living in the country. You can burn it. Here again, where you draw the line with the system like this, it's hard to draw a line as to, there's a little inequity there. But on the other side, tipping fee is it's going to cost us some capital to set up, because you got to weigh everybody that brings trash. Charge them so much pound, ton, whatever.
Right, I understand.
And then you got to have a collection agent. You got everybody there taking money.
Right, I understand all that.
I have my trash hauled off by Jeff Mock, and I pay $55 a month, but they come right to they furnish me a dumpster and they come to my house, so if we were to go in after that $61 wouldn't even be the tip of the iceberg what we'd have to charge, but we're not gonna go there. But if we did go there, it'd be the $55 a month probably.
Well, I don't have much more. I guess, you're being wrong about it again. There's not too much you can do. I heard that one of your staff gave himself a $10,000 raise. Is that correct? Is that just a rumor?
We're talking about we're in the solid waste fee hearing, so if it's any other business, we can
Okay, well, I'm just,
discuss.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's just not, we're focusing on the solid waste
Okay, sorry.
fee hearing, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I just thought
Well, they
maybe
could
that's
take
part of
it.
all the money was going, that for your short, since you said you have shortfalls, you were trying to make up.
Okay, thank you, boss.
The difference by charging everybody $61.
One thing that we could possibly do, and it's kind of the best of both worlds, is to have a mixed approach where we have, maybe a $10 fee for a resident, and if they come up in a truckload, they pay their, a small yearly fee, maybe not the $61, but something to go towards the occasional bag of trash or the occasional truckload of stuff. You pay it one time a year, and then there's no tipping fee for the transfer station. That gets paid there, and then when you have big haulers, they pay the tipping fee, so that you get the best of both systems. That is something that a lot of counties are going to, and I think that is probably one of our best were to pay $10-15 for an entire year and just go to the transfer station and haul, not having to pay a fee every time they go up there, that's a better system. And, you know, $61 does, I mean, if somebody is generating maybe a bag of trash a month, $61 is still a little steep. So maybe if we do a mixed approach like that, we will be able to get the yearly cost down. So that's an idea, but for as of right now, for this year, because we budgeted and we need to rely on that money to operate the solid waste, we can make changes for 2014, but for this year, we're pretty much set and dependent on the solid waste fees. So.
It's kind of work in progress. I mean, it's, you know, there's a lot of things that are kind of at crossroads right now. We've got a lot of mandates from Kansas Department of Health and Environment on certain things we can and can't do for transportation, handling trash. There's been a lot of talk about mandates of reduction and diverting out stuff out of the waste stream system. I mean, so we're kind of we're somewhat at the mercy of the state on what kind of regulations they want to push down on us, and we still have to provide, you know, an outlet for trash. We can't just let it accumulate and do nothing. Obviously, Center County will get detrimental to the whole picture. So it's something that the Solid Waste Committee is analyzing pretty seriously. And I'm sure we'll probably see some changes here going forward in 2014, at least. Right now, you know, we feel for you. I mean, 2013 right now, this is the system that we have in place to operate our transfer station and majority communications with the 1% sales revenues, and in this case, we've also got solid waste fees as well. So.
It'd be safe to say we don't know what the change is going to be, but there will definitely be some changes.
Pat, we were going to have Schwab meeting come out. I don't know if we ever did have a discussion with them about solid waste committee.
I don't remember.
I can't remember where we left that, or if we were going to ever have them come up and discuss.
Do they come to the solid waste committee meetings?
No.
No, they don't.
Big Chris Cox.
Yeah, I had talked to Chris Cox about the solid waste committee, and he said that from what I talked to him, his standpoint was pretty much they stayed out of that, and that was up to the counties to decide how that worked. But
you know, that's all well and good, but it was, you know, his suggestion to you to have the committee made up the way it was. His suggestion that, you know, it was operating under the methods that he suggested. So that's fine if he doesn't want to take ownership of it after the fact, but it's certainly run for their
well,
suggestions.
my conversation with him was he never suggested anything about the solid waste committee.
Is that accurate?
that was long before I don't know if it is or not.
I thought he supplied you with the forms and asked you to take them around.
No, those are sent to me from the state. But I had asked him about the solid waste committee, and he had claimed he had nothing to do with that. The forms that are sent to me are from KDHE.
Yeah, but he has to submit a plan, and there's statutes in place. You think that he would review statutes too. Does that make sense, or?
Well,
Paying an engineering fee to, I mean, how much do we pay him annually? That's solid waste fee, or solid waste.
I would have to look, I don't know.
Yeah, he makes the plan,
Yeah.
It was a 2009.
Yeah, and it's due this year to be rewritten. I looked, I don't know if we can talk about this now, but I looked in up the statute on that solid waste management plan, and I didn't see anything in there where the committee could pick who voted and who didn't vote, on the solid waste committee. That's supposed to be people are supposed to be appointed by the county commissioners. I don't see how the board could, you know,
You mean
try.
the committee is dictating who can vote and who can't?
Yeah.
Let's get out of here before we.
Yeah.
Do we close this and reopen it if somebody shows up?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I've got one too.
You also will take the vote on the
This is one from,
We have 2 hearings,
Dylan.
or 2 appeals. Do
Oh,
we need
okay.
to document something or take a comment?
No, they need to vote on.
Okay.
But that's after they come out and
They did, they just closed their hearing.
Well, I didn't,
3 to 6
I've already had a motion. A
Okay.
motion to close the
I
hearing.
move we close the hearing.
Sorry, 2:35. Got a second.
I second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 to 6 weeks out.
Oh, okay, alright. Oh, yeah, please comment, you had a comment earlier about, you said an employee received $10,000, I didn't quite.
They gave themselves a raise,
Keep it for archive.
so that's your, which is.
The only people that allow, or we're the ones, the commission sets salaries, and I mean, are you talking for 2013 budget year, or are you talking about just stuff out of the blue?
I believe his name was Trey, I'm not sure his last name,
Oh, you're talking about Trey Cocking?
maybe that's his last name.
That'd be the city of Atchison,
Okay.
not Atchison County. His budget, I believe, or his salary would be set by his commission.
So it doesn't come out of this whole group here, because since you said you're all was running short of funds, and the funds are being distributed in different areas other than for the intended purpose. That's why I brought that up. If it's being distributed in different ways where it's not supposed to be distributed, then maybe that's why we're all being charged $61. But if it doesn't have nothing to do with it, then it is what it is then.
The $10,000 salary wouldn't influence us. I mean, as far as the sales tax revenues are still being used for, you know, they're still being used for their intended uses. I mean, it's one of the revenues that comes into our general fund. So, I mean, that funds, you know, joint communications, solid waste are two of, gosh, how many different departments do we have in general now? I'm trying to think. Dozens more?
At least.
Probably more.
we need to sign this?
No, because it was.
The appeal,
You just need one signature.
So we just need one.
I think that's.
I think it should.
And dated with the county official, so I think we should be good.
We can all three sign. I think we did all three on the last one, didn't we?
That was for the, summary sheet.
Oh.
That was for everything that had been filed. That's just for her, like, it all goes into a box and gets filed away.
Exactly. Just two.
This petition with no change?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any more questions for us?
Okay, to stay and listen?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're welcome to stay. I just want to make sure we're not cutting you off. I'm sorry.
No, appreciate it, thank you.
Matt, did you have something on household hazardous waste before we, buildings or something?
I'm still, trying to get more information, just in what I've come up with so far, I'm at around, to move the household hazardous waste out to the transfer station, we're around $18,000 right now. And that's, the only thing I have left is, electrical. I'm waiting to get an estimate on that. But we're gonna be right around $20,000 with a new 20 by 20 building, carport style building. And that's including a concrete pad with a 4-inch, containment curb all the way around it. I went ahead and up to a 1,000-gallon waste oil tank because I know in the past we've had problems at the recycle center with filling up, and that's also then I included to put down a 60-foot long, 24 feet wide asphalt slab in front of all this. Is $4,700, and then the equipment to move the building that we'll be getting from KDHE. I've got $568 in labor cost there. So we're right around $20,000 after we get everything said and done. But I'm waiting to see about our permitting, how big of a hassle that's going to be, and whether we're going to have a consultant look at that or an engineer to get some plans on. I'm hoping we don't, but I'm waiting to hear back from KDHE on that to see how complicated that process is.
They can't send somebody else?
KDHE? Well, that's what I've tried all day to get. They must be on vacation today because I can't get a hold of anybody today. But
I can see why they couldn't send somebody else to approve it.
right. Well, I talked to Chris Cox, and the only thing he was worried about was like on our building and our concrete, whether we would have to have stamp plans for that. But like I said, I'm checking into that. Hopefully, by Monday I'll have a better update on that. But I just couldn't get a hold of the right people, so I'm still working on that.
Mr. Ward?
I am.
We're a little
Chuck Ward. I'm a longtime Atchison resident. I have a little bit construction business here. We do, in the process of our business, we do some roofing, some siding, some windows, and we have waste that's, sorry about that. We have waste that's out-of-town waste that I would like to see if you guys would, you gentlemen would consider taking under advisement if we could pay some kind of a monthly or annual or something fee to be able to dump in the C&D here. We do business here. We have 5 trucks, only 1 dump trailer, 5 trailers, but not only 1 dump trailer that are licensed and taxed here in Atchison County. I live here in Atchison County. So if you gentlemen would take that under advisement, see if you come up with something where we might be able to pay some kind of fee, either annually or monthly, or we probably have, in a good season or in a good time of year, we probably have maybe 7 to 8 roofs a month. In the bad season, in the slow season, we maybe do a couple. So give you some idea what amount of waste we have. We do very little siding and windows, but we do some. We have 2 full-time guys, and at any point in time, we probably have anywhere from 3 to 5 part-time guys.
Is it something that you just started doing, or what have you done in the past as far as?
We've been doing it for a long time, but we started subcontracting Sears, so we are, and we started that about 6 months ago, so we are picking up, and that is the 6 or 8 a month kind of deal. So I started picking up quite a bit from them. And they run us all over, so.
Yeah, it's not an unusual request. I mean, I know we get requests for, especially C&D, you know, from people in and out of county. Currently, we don't have a typical year charge for C&D unless it's like a house demolition, but I'm not sure.
Well, I am a county resident. I'm not
sure.
Yeah. I kind of run into that. I used to do cleanup for Riley's and Leavenworth, and I kind of got into catch-22 with Leavenworth County because I had Atchison County tags. I was actually doing Leavenworth County waste, but I had Atchison County tags, so I kind of got in a catch-22 with them, but so I had to pay our county waste, but
you're still able to dump it. Yeah, that's something to probably.
I just thought maybe you take that, let me know something.
Yeah, that'd probably be something good to present the solid waste committee, you know, to do. I mean, I don't think it's too unfeasible to do something with.
I looked in the solid waste plan, and I looked through the guidelines, and there is nothing in there that says we can or can't do it. It's basically up to us whether we want to do it or not.
I think Prime County they have a state charge, because they're on.
Yeah, don't they have a in-county fee and an out-county?
Yeah, in county.
I think most do. Jackson County does.
We kind of do both.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just something that, you know, in the years past, we just haven't accepted out of county waste, and, you know, it's just, you know, it'd just be, I guess, if you wanted to do it, how we would bill it, if that's what you wanted to do.
I did bring cars up for you gentlemen. We got them in the truck, but if you, I'm in the phone book.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely take under advisement. We have a solid waste committee that's been going through a solid waste plan, and that'd be something great to talk with, especially now as spring's coming up. I'm sure it'll probably come more frequently.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Biggest issue is billing. Is it gonna be cash, check, card, or use your bank account? So.
Can't you do it like you do your demolition right now, they pay so much to the treasurer?
We could, the only thing about that is hard for us to keep track of how much money is in there, and, you know, we never really know for sure. Yeah, we're weighing everybody anyway, so I mean, it's not like we have to do anything extra. It's, the billing is basically all we're looking at.
I guess the collection of fees.
Right.
You know, I'd say the easiest offhand is if somebody was setting up like an account or, you know, set up an account, I think that's probably the easiest. That eliminate a lot of the petty cash and.
Yes, that once a month billing or whatever.
Yeah.
Bad at all.
No, especially if you only have, I don't anticipate a lot of people is gonna be doing it.
Right.
But if we did do something like that, we could, right now, it's kind of like me and Pauline was talking about, it's kind of a pain because right now when somebody tears down a structure, they have to come to the clerk's office.
Not mine, treasure.
Oh, the treasurer's office. Okay, they have to come up and they have to put down $400 deposit, I believe it is. And, we never know.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't pay us out at the transfer station, they pay at the courthouse. And it's kind of a pain because we never know, without calling up who paid and who didn't, how much money they have in their account. So, that's the way it works now. That, in years past, it's just always been set up where we didn't deal with any of the cash, money flow out to the transfer station.
So you avoid a lot of problems out there. If it's held somewhere else, money's all handled in one spot, that's
That's an interesting way, I've never heard of doing it.
Well, actually, I think, like, say Marlack Construction or Martin Construction, whoever, they would probably actually rather have a monthly filling, to be honest with you, because it's a pain for them too.
right.
Because there's been several times they had to run up here and bring money up here because they ran out. And it would probably be more efficient for everybody if it was on a monthly billing system. You know, I wouldn't think it'd be that much more work.
Well,
Yeah.
with their,
The biggest thing would just work out the procedures. Do we just do it on an Excel and transfer it to the treasurers? Do we, I mean, coming up with the dollars and cents per ton, the record weights, and then where it's billed to, and then who collects it on the billing. So, I mean, that wouldn't be that hard. We just measure it individually.
We just have to come up with how much we're gonna charge per ton. Right now, it's kind of set up, I would actually rather be on a per ton basis, because right now it's by the truckload. And I would actually rather it be on a per ton, because it would be more fair for everybody if it was.
Heineke, sets a number, was it 35?
It's 30.
It was 30
Right in that
something.
area, yeah, I was thinking 32.
They calculated like labor and.
Yeah, there's a number. in there.
Yeah.
Per ton, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because I brought that up, I think at the first meeting, at the solid waste committee meeting, that, that was something we could look at, because with our new contract with Deffenbaugh, we're pretty much right at the same number as Heineke's saying it costs to bury it out there. And that would be an option when our C&D gets full, to just put it in a trailer and send it to Kansas City. You'd be right at about the same number.
Yeah, if we charged them 32 and it cost us 31,
Yeah, we just put it in the
it's
trailer.
covered, but the price, I mean, you have to, it chips away at it, it doesn't take care of labor or surcharge or commodities, but it would take care of that C&D
Right.
issue, so.
Especially after our C&D, I mean, it's not a big issue now, but when our CD gets full, it's gonna be a big issue.
The problem would be is if fuel goes up and you have more tonnage going out, then you start seeing, then the net effect becomes greater. But I think we still have a few years left out there.
Yeah, we should have a few years. It is filling up. It's getting pretty full out there, but, we surveyed it, and I mean, we can still come up, another like 5 feet, so we still got a few years left.
You got room for another pit, so we don't shoot.
Yeah, if push comes to shove, yeah, we're taking the dirt to cover our CD right now, we're actually building the pit as we're filling up our CD area. So a lot of that pit will be dug.
It'll be dug, and
Right.
it's just a matter of KDHE approving it and doing their tests and all that sort of
Right.
stuff. You gotta line that thing too, don't you?
No,
You don't have to
no,
line it.
not C&D. I don't know if you wanna talk about, the question was brought up at the, solid waste committee on who should be able to, I guess, vote in the solid waste committee. So what I read, the people are, on the solid waste committee are appointed by the county commissioners. So I don't see where the solid waste committee really has the authority to decide.
The only, and I stated, the only person that I knew of on that board that wouldn't have a voting right would be myself.
But then, right, and I know that, and then, but all of a sudden, at yesterday's meeting, there was like 5 of us that,
Or ex officio.
yeah.
I guess it would go down to what the committee's bylaws were, because we do have a chairman, we do have a vice chairman, but they're an advisory committee at best, so it's not as though their decisions are binding on the county, but it did get, the discount, the city manager has a vote to discount, Matt has a vote to discount, because we're all ex officio, we work for the government, therefore we can't vote on
We're haulers.
government.
Well, I
We're all,
wasn't,
the city's a hauler.
The city's a hauler.
So, it's not much of an issue, but it was just.
I just thought it was a little weird because I don't remember anybody voting on that, or.
I feel like it came from one person.
Yeah.
That kind of.
Well, because we didn't actually ratify bylaws, we're getting too far into the weeds yet again about, you know, what the voting procedure.
How many did you have the meeting yesterday?
What's that?
How many attended the meeting yesterday?
12, 14.
Okay, you said there's 5 ex, they determined that there's 5 of you are ex officio, that's what you said.
Something like that.
Jeff,
Myself.
You.
me, Chase, Trey,
I think that's it.
I thought there were a couple more.
they said any trash haulers wouldn't.
Right, yeah, they said they would have discount,
Like Gary. I think Gary was there.
Gary wasn't there.
He wasn't there, but I mean, I think they.
Becky, also City of Atchison. It's much ado about nothing, but it is the same token, because it is, it's
They
unnecessary.
were just supposed to come up with set suggestions, and then 3 of us would vote on it.
Right, and that, at the end of the day, that is exactly what it is, it's an advisory committee, so who gets to vote and who doesn't get to vote is a little immaterial, but to just go ahead and take privilege and say, well, your vote doesn't count, your vote doesn't count, your vote doesn't count. Yeah, just, gotta love committees, gotta love them.
I hope they just don't lose, fact of what their main
Yeah,
objective
right,
is.
exactly.
I mean, they're not to run the county, they're to come up with solutions to help us better.
Right.
Suggestions,
Oh.
improve this thing.
Our suggestion box is full, let's just put it that way. It's gonna be.
But I think 1 or 3 on it, maybe get the idea.
Well, you're complaining about, I got 30 questions to answer, so.
Yeah. I think.
Even though half of them were answered, so.
Yeah, but it's just the projections, that whether we move the transfer station, whether we do landfill and that matter, we're just gonna have to come up with some numbers and just a definitive no. And we'll move on from that, but.
Move the transfer station?
Yeah, apparently it's not centrally
Yeah.
located enough.
That was one thing that came up yesterday, they talked about, instead of having Effingham and Atchison transfer station, to move the transfer station to a central location, only have one transfer station. Which, I don't know how they'd make,
Well, tell them you were gonna have it in Central, because you're gonna have it out at Shannon Industrial, but they didn't let you have it.
They're gonna central locate when they're over here, about central locate.
Yeah, geographically, population wise, I mean,
That's something different, people fight to get a landfill.
Right, people want the landfill in their backyard as well. Health concerns,
Economic development.
I guess. And another issue, and this one is something that we might have to consider, is, the county lake, going out there and actually getting a couple trash bags and seeing where.
And I've done
I've
that before, I just haven't done it lately, I can do it.
They weren't too happy when they heard out of county trash and getting,
That's not hard to take care of, Bill.
We need to bring up some more.
I'm gonna do what's right, I done talked to a few people,
I think
you do what's right.
yeah, right. I mean, that was, nobody in the committee voted on that actual thing, but it was.
No,
pretty
it's
much-
talked about.
It was discussed pretty heavily, strongly suggested.
Well, we'll get an idea, I mean, we'll find out pretty quick, I mean, if there's more trash than it shows up at Effingham, the difference between what shows up at Effingham versus what you're hauling off now is what you're
Yeah.
getting out of county.
They just, they wanted to know if, we had done a, random check lately and, check, see if there's any out in the trash, which I can do that if you want me to, it's no big deal, I'd go out and grab 10 bags and, throw them down, rip them open.
Actually, when Dennis is around, he checks quite a bit, because I've had 2 or 3 people tell me that, they're in-county people, that he's been out there checking. But, do we expect to go out there at 2 o'clock in the morning?
We do, we leave it there around to almost 11 hours.
Well,
One of the questions focused in on how much we're paying to have all this stuff transferred to, so,
we know, he knows, I mean, that's pretty easy.
I know, that's just what was, that's the conversations that were occurring, so.
If we're really look at maybe population there, I mean, it doesn't hardly warrant having something there, I mean, there's no central location, Effingham is supposed to be a central
So,
located.
I thought somebody said there's 2 out there, I thought there was only 1.
No, we hold 2, we hold a day, so, that's what I was wondering, should we take the lead on that again, because it's a county summit, and we set a time and set a place, sponsor?
Yeah, they do have a building there.
Right, I think I wanted to offer it if they would, if we give somebody, we could have it there.
Can we get like order just sandwiches from Subway with the chips and take that?
Yeah, we get something simple here, I mean, that's, yeah.
I mean, Subway will do that, they'll do your,
Yeah,
or
you're
even
fine.
Country Mart will do your sandwiches and your chips.
Yeah, it probably, I think Buzz's wasn't too bad for what we had. I think he would charge like $6 and a half, $7 for that meal.
Yeah, I wasn't there early enough to eat, so.
That's right. I think it was like $7 for what he charged.
300, I think it was 300 a day.
Yeah. That we had 45, I mean, there's 40-some people there, so it's a little over $300.
Yeah.
So we had Subway, or they made Subway and sub sandwiches and 2 different kinds of soup. And we had s'mores all in the morning, so you was there, so. I think that's great, because you stop thinking about it, that's fairly simple.
I'd rather promote a smaller local business than a chain franchise. Whether it be Buzz or whether it be somebody that, Lancaster or anything,
Or even Country Mart. Well, Country Mart's
I'd rather
local.
see us support
Yeah,
smaller business.
Palucci's, they have a room too, I think Pete's has a room upstairs.
Yeah, that thing's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I haven't been up there in many years.
It's been 20-some years we used to have.
Dirty and smoky smell last time I saw it.
Well, even 409 has their conference room, the room.
set for May so that we can kind of proceed and we can get kind of more commitments and see kind of what people are willing to do. I'm collecting some more interesting data that I'm going to share with you on this video, on the sales tax. I gotta get it verified. I don't want to, there's been a thing or two that wasn't, it was a little distorted. I mean, it wasn't quite what I thought, but it's close, but I want to make sure I'm right on this one. Spill it out. If it's what I think it is, it's ugly.
We did find out the solid waste committee. Tim Callahan mentioned that when he asked at one of their earlier meetings, nobody had an interest in it. They did have one member who had an interest in Ronnie. I don't know his
Ronnie
last name.
Myers, it's Larry Myers' brother.
He was up here, wasn't he, on the solid waste, both of them was.
Yeah, because they had they both had vacant lots.
And he was going to get in touch with Chase to talk about it. And although he said he couldn't come to the meetings if they're gonna have it during the day.
Right.
So, and then we talked about redistricting, and their consensus was unless we were gonna split Lancaster into two different districts, they were not interested in redistricting, but.
Nice weekend.
Yeah, but any other proposals, let's do it next week.
Right, so that's why we talked about
This
it.
solid waste committee, I got, they're thinking they want to vote. If we tell them no, they're just to advise us of the stuff. Or they gonna say, well, what the hell we doing? We can't make no decisions.
Well, can they vote for the suggestions? I mean, there
Yeah,
might be
sure.
15 different suggestions.
Well,
that
they can do
vote
that,
and
but that's not what they want to do. I got a feeling how they vote what we're supposed to do,
Yeah.
whether we agree with it or
And
not.
I think it needs to be reiterated that they are advisory. I mean, it's gotta kind of fit into our bigger, there's some things that we have to deal with that they don't fully understand. And I still think how the sales tax kind of plays out is a factor, because I just go back to the point that I think the voters still need to tell us how much and what we will use, how much we will use for. I mean, I think we get to see that there's some legitimacy to when you start charging the user fee like on solid waste, people like to be more efficient. And so there's some value in that. There's some things that we don't have much control over. I mean, joint communications and I was visiting with Craig Simons, that did the hunting. He was a county administrator and stuff. He actually said, well, it doesn't make more sense to use your sales tax for something like ambulance, or joint communications. He said, because there's not a lot of things there that you can do in terms of modifying, the cost of operations. And so, anyway, but I think that has to play into fact, because that will eventually might dictate, how we do fund solid waste. If people decide we want to do away with it, what's going to happen. If they voted the 1 cent sales tax completely out, then we would be, solid waste would be totally funded with a user fee, and then your ambulance and joint communications then would fall on to property tax.
I don't know how people can think that they can have the trash picked up at their front door for $61 a year.
It's what you call hopeful thinking.
I did call Jefferson County. They don't pay hams any money. It's all ham. They pick it up and they charge the person.
They take care of the billing.
But Jefferson County has no cost in a landfill or transfer station.
Well, because they have no transfer station.
So there's no subsidy.
Property tax or something, we gotta get the money back, that's something that's not good.
Ham's charged.
Whoever, they do a tipping, Ham's, I think, probably collects a tipping So whoever picks it up charges that customer.
I'm guessing they gotta have even collection places for, say, farm, individuals to take their trash. I'm sure they got probably an ordinance that they find trash along the side of the road or something, that they're probably.
We must be doing something wrong with the pole house, cause I got a 4-yard dumpster, and there's my house and my boy's house. That thing's pretty much full every Friday. Pretty much full every Friday. So that's, look at that, that's 200 some
You
cubic.
shouldn't have so many parties.
I don't know. I like
You sure
that.
somebody else can come in and put the stuff in while you're
No,
gone?
no.
You know,
Are you married?
But I'll tell you what, that's the best, I don't mind writing that check at all. Cause I used to burn the trash, and it wouldn't burn, and the can would fall down, and there'd be a can.
Well, when you
You dig it hole.
burn.
Yeah, that's the best $50 I spend. My boy agrees with it too.
You pay more than you think.
But anyway, people create more trash than what they think they do.
They did, yeah, I know, cause I probably burn 2 sacks a week of
I
my
can't believe
trash.
that lady does not have any other trash besides what she burns.
We,
But,
Unless she's burning her plastics and whatever.
so do you think she's digging a hole and burying the rest after she burns it?
Wouldn't expect it.
That's what we used to have at a house where we lived, was it used to be an old cistern.
it's KDHE.
Yeah, I'm
I mean, is that wrong?
Mary, if you don't write a good story, KDHE's coming to your
But
place.
it was like a huge hole in the ground.
It is on, it
Might
is
have
on
to get out of
video.
jail for
We'll
the
go
car
watch
crash.
that anyway.
It is on video.
Yeah, I know it. That'd be Mary Myers.
Turn around and wave at me.
But you know, it just made great, you know. And why
Is that
that
at the Rock
concrete?
House?
No, that was, it's over across from Bundy's, what's Bundy's now, that's my mother's
Oh.
home place. So, but it was abandoned, you know, there was nothing there, it was like a big little concrete opening. And that worked great, you know, bottomless pit almost.
We need water down there too.
I know, you know, I burn trash, and John doesn't like the plastics going in there because it makes long.
I don't know if you heard that or not, did you hear what I said?
No.
I said, I think we have one commissioner contacting one of our candidates way too much.
Well,
You
I
can
think,
make it up, you
I think
can.
the communication came
Jeff
from,
sent it to you.
I think it came from the candidate
No.
to him, because it did from
You have something
candidates
to
to
put
me
on
as
it?
well.
From Monday.
I got it come from
Is it
the
something
city
that I need to
manager,
scan in and add to?
commissioner's
Oh.
friends, to Chris, back to.
I mean, we could.
It might be, I don't know.
That's a very good question, how'd you find out?
We could put this on.
No, I put the minutes on.
Yeah, okay.
Or if there's anything else I can do, what do you need?
Well, this is, we need to discuss, we've been talking about putting this county or Fraser and county car, whatever, up for bids, and I've collected what information I can. Just want to get the other 3 commissioners, or the other 2 commissioners approval, so we can put it out.
What line would you like to put that in your bid to? Under elected officials discussion?
I thought you said at the last meeting we had with him that you was gonna hold it off to see about the car.
Well, we don't have to, I mean, it's, no, we didn't really discuss that necessarily, or we can. He just said, you know, he basically said,
He doesn't have really anybody, I mean, he's got 3 vehicles, who uses them.
He said the sheriff's department has one of those, I didn't say that.
he said something about that, yeah.
Or Chase.
Parked over here.
Well, he said he would, you know, wouldn't have to, I mean, we can put it off, I mean, it's up to get you guys' decision. I just told Jeff that I would
You have
do
the bill
the
for the
initial
ambulance so
investigation
that I can
and
see
see
that.
what's out there.
You know what happened to that car?
I have no problem. So,
you want me to see if I still have it
No,
on
I think,
email?
I was pretty impressed with the response time, considering the winter, the weather, and this being new.
The ambulance?
Yeah, 6 minutes, that's pretty cool. Now, if you're out there laying a ditch, you probably see about 3 hours. 6 minutes, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Huh?
I didn't copy it, you know.
Do you need one? I mean, I could
I-
probably,
I
all
was
of
gonna
them,
count
still
them
have
up
it
too,
on
but I
my
bet you it's not
email.
100%.
Well,
If you send it to
no, I
me,
don't think
if I
it's
do,
quite
I'll
that
just
much,
fix
but,
it.
You know what?
on the paper, I'm glad it got broke up like
I
that,
know I
because
emailed
now
you.
it is broke up to where it's city and county, whereas before,
Okay, so
you
this
see it a
one
little
has the
bit
ambulance
distorted because
operational, right?
the hospital
And it's this-
went to Kiowa Road, so there would have been a portion of what's now showing up as the East District would have been in their report.
You wanna go ahead and initial that so I can go ahead and take that ambulance to
We're about to see her.
anywhere? I assume you're approving it.
I did
That's
ask,
what we agreed on.
I did ask by a few people over in Missouri, over around Gene Lake or something, like to have some kind of ambulance, and now evidently they don't. How do they want to pay for it?
Well, I think that's the rub. They want us to respond because we're the closest ambulance, but
But we don't, we're there, when they give it reimbursement, they think it's a break even, their money making proposition.
Yeah.
Didn't we, I think,
Didn't Platte County have something to say about that though?
well, yes, they have I understand response times down there can be half an hour because they're coming from St. Joe. And so I think when we're called, we go, because we don't want to have the story of somebody dies and, you know, we decided not to go because, but, so really the story ought to be going out ahead of time that we're warning you that we're not going to respond after such and such a date unless you want to pay a fair, you know, pay a fair subsidy. And,
it'd be a difference if it was a break even situation.
I don't know, I would say that they would say, okay, we want service, we'll pay for it. You don't think so?
well,
They never have.
they haven't so far, man.
And they've been.
But of course, we haven't said we're not going to respond.
The hospital, I think, looked at it as an opportunity, as, you know, because they bring the patients in there. And I think it was, I don't know, 20-some calls a year, something like that.
You know, I don't know, that's probably a good point to bring up a discussion with
Every
Trent.
time I run into winter jam, that's what I hear.
Don't you have to have a mutual agreement to go over?
Yes.
You need that.
We should, but
In case
if
of
we get a
emergency?
call from Winthrop that somebody's having, you know, somebody got shot, we're probably gonna go, even without an agreement. But I don't know, I need to talk to Brent on that.
So Mike, do you want me to put on about that for your car, or you wanna hold off?
Well, we'll just make a decision if we want, you know, put it on hold now. I got all the data collected and stuff, so.
So you want me to put in the commissioner's comments and
Yeah,
committee report?
that's fine, yeah. I'd say if you wait now, you're gonna wait quite a while because the government rebates are building, they're probably gonna peak here until they get rid of the 13 models and then the new ones come in and then there'll be much, because when I was visiting with Foster, he was showing me how.
Okay, I'm curious.
Oh, no. You're looking at, probably by the time you get all your, somewhere between 23, 24. And that's all the budget is for anyway, so, I mean, if it comes in with the budget, I wouldn't approve it, but that's, list prices. Here again, it's hard. I stopped by out here at Lewis. The Equinoxes, they're popular, but it's actually just a little bit bigger than the Escape. So we're not exactly comparing apples to apples per se. But their Captiva or whatever it is a little smaller. It's about like an Escape. It might be just a hair smaller. They can't even order one unless they get a program card because
we run a dollar, we had one from the get-go, we had that truck, it was in the shop 6 months. It was down there 29 days, it's ready to be able to come get it, drive it home 10 miles, start doing the same thing, I come home, got my checkbook, we were right to Kansas City, I traded that sucker off, I had nothing but trouble. But they're roomy. Yeah, they're roomy.
Like I said, just the problem with lots of the hens are, is that they'll, most of the time, when they bid them, they don't bid hardly a profit, they just wanna get one out, and then whatever the government subsidy is, then they take off, you know, all the other list price, markup, and this and that.
Well, I know that truck that Wes bought, the difference between what we paid for it and list was staggering.
It is, you know, it's like $12,000 to $13,000 difference. Cause there's an I think there's $8,500, and you see that's the same probably like one early you got, because, see, the 13s will be quite made here pretty soon. Now, the only thing that Lewis said out here was is that he may have to order one to get the government program, and he didn't know whether he could sell it off as a lot. But I told him color was not the issue. I didn't want yellow, but Budweiser, I don't remember like some of that. But they are, my son's drove an Escape, and that's a nice two-person vehicle. But if you're, if the appraiser ends up using a lot, and there's only 1 or 2 people, they're more efficient. But if the if that ends up being a, you know, use 3/4 of the time, taking 3-4 people, that's what you want. So I think that's what you got to decide. You know, something that's gonna be, and I think there's gonna be more times than 1 or 2 people to use those vehicles in a multi.
I tell you what's more comfortable than an SUV is the 4-wheel pickup.
Oh, yeah.
Just set up higher, I had that money to pick up that road, I can drink, use it fast.
In an SUV, you get 25, 30 miles per gallon, you get in your truck.
Well, I get, that's why I traded off, I was getting like 13, 14.
Yeah.
And I traded that new Lincoln, I'm getting like 24, quite different. I mean, it rode just as good as that car did. I like it just set up.
I need to get another car, I don't know whether to buy new or used.
For yourself or for,
Yeah.
instead of the van?
Yeah, there's a number of problems with the van.
I think the one you wrecked it.
No, I got rid of that.
Oh, okay.
I sold it.
It's the one you drive in, it's the van you drive.
Actually, there's some 2012 program at Powell's, that's called. And I ran to read up at St. Joe's a couple months, and he buys them fleet.
They're like, what, 15, 17?
15,000.
Yeah, I told my boy, I'm looking at the car, but he wanted to get an SUV, GMC something.
But see, if we buy, there's not a government rebate when you stop. Really start comes pension to it, even though it looks like a program card. I mean, you don't have much warranty left, and you don't get that, you know, government rebate, and they've got profit building anyway. So a new vehicle is usually the better route to go most unless you buy it through the government, like John did some of the stuff. Anyway, did we ever determine who was going to contact Benedict Tees about that river roses? I thought we told Matt to have one from them, so
He called that Dan Eden Monday and told him that he needs to contact me for an appointment that nobody's contacted.
Okay, then that all was in their court then.
I'm not real crazy about places that run down that way.
That's 4 hours.
There's places you can run,
They don't need to close for 4 hours, I've never, it's not gonna be a 4-hour long race.
I'm not for that.
Well, let them come up here and plead their case, and then Matt probably won't tell everything, let them explain themselves, and we'll deal with it, yeah. On a weekend, it's probably more logical, but when the service is closed. But then again, in all honesty, from 8 to 10 in those cities, there's not a lot of activity going on. Some of them wait till they know the bike trails, and they know the bike trails, so. I guess I didn't catch, what did you say? You said there was something on M&E, I didn't catch all what you said.
I think I was wrong, I think I just read it this morning.
Oh.
I think I think I got it this morning, but it was sent last night.
I think it's the one that I'm in.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like something's gonna go through.
I'd say it is, but
Yeah, I'd say it's a done deal.
Well, that's a very political change that they made to their report, amending their report.
Yeah. I'm just guessing Jerry's catching it from two sides, because I think MGP will be affected, all the grain elevators, those kind of businesses will be, they'll have to bring it back. I'm not for sure whether the other, I was talking to Brown County Commissioner last night, Morgan County LP. He hadn't heard, and I hadn't either, I'm not for sure that the other bill that I went down testified against, whether he even made out of committee. The last report I got was that there was one person on the committee who was the swing vote, and he was getting hammered to vote, not voted out of committee, so. And then, there's talk, that sales tax sunset issue, the state sales tax is supposed to fund roads and, well, the governor wants to leave that on because there's been a shortfall because of the income tax. Well, now the Democratic leadership has proposed to do away with it. Now they put, they're gonna look like the they're gonna look like the people that are trying to save the taxes. And the governor's now in a situation that he's trying to raise or leave on.
I don't know who he'd get his advice from, but he needs to change gears. Big time.
Well, I was pretty anxious in the dairy organization I work with, this new secretary, he seemed to be really pro-agriculture, but he's corporate, man. I mean, they want to do away with the corporation laws. See, right now there's a corporation, basically county commissioners, or your local counties, through the county commission can allow corporate farmer or not. And there's 17 counties that allow it, and the others will. I mean, if you go through the process, they can, but they can't come in without going through the process. Well, they won't do away with it. Well, I can just start seeing somebody come in and buy it. I mean, well, Ted Turner owns, I don't know how many thousands of acres of land down by Pratt, but you get a big corporation, somebody got enough, they'll come in and they'll take up 14 family farms, and they'll have a.
That's what this one has been doing, right?
Well, there's more money out there than you realize. Sitting on the sideline, people went to invest.
Why wouldn't they? Money in the bank's 1%.
Where you get that at?
Yeah. Well, you can do 1% if you put it in there for 48 to 60 months.
Yeah. That's the only nice thing about, borrowing money right now. The interest rate is so low. It doesn't bother me too
At
much.
the convention I went to with the REA and then the crop insurance dinner, Jeff had some question. They said they could, interest them up, they could see where it could be, banks charging like 8% for the year.
So when's this?
Pardon me?
When's this?
They said within the next year, I think it's 4.25 right now, and they said within the next year, it's easily 8% you'll be paying for your
2.3 or 2.4% surcharge or tax on medical equipment. Yeah, that's fact, that's it here, show it. But there's a there's a provision there that explains what all medical equipment, and it includes fishing equipment, because the guy showed his receipt from Cabela's, and Cabela's won't take it off, they're showing it that in addition to sales tax, there's a medical excise tax on there.
What did he buy at Cabela's that was?
Fishing equipment or something, hunting equipment, fishing equipment, there's a whole list of things. I haven't checked out the validity of this email, but a good friend of mine who's a sportsman said that those are items that are listed.
Under the sales tax, not exempt,
No.
under medical.
There's a new tax. That's starting in January 1 for this Obamacare on like medical devices. And when you read on down
Fishing
through,
gear is medical device?
that's listed as, now that's just what I'm not gonna tell you,
Would it be-
I'm telling you what I read on my email, okay?
Therapeutic,
Oh, okay.
that's it.
Stress.
It may be a hoax email, I don't know. I actually seen the copy of the receipt from Cabela's, and it showed medical excise tax on certain stuff that they bought Cabela's.
Hmm.
Well, you got anything else? Mary, you got anything for us?
Let's see, I can't think of it.
On these, charge cards, where like, we'll pick on Matt, he's got 2 or 3 different cards, why does he need?
I don't know, you need to ask him, maybe he doesn't know.
We need to
I mean,
clean that up.
this was all before I took over. I took it from the sheriff. Now, maintenance has 3 of them, and Tom doesn't know why he has 3. Because it's under the same vehicle. So I don't, maybe we need to send them out and tell the departments, this is what you have in your fuel card, you know, this is, I mean, do you need them all, or do you need to cancel them?
Clean it up a little bit.
Oh, you're talking about the purchase card, I'm talking about fuel, sorry. Matt might be, because I think at one time they were discussing, because I know Peggy has one for Atchison Hotel. But I don't know why he has 3 of them. Maybe he doesn't know he has 3. I don't know.
You're talking about the gas card or?
Oh, I thought he was
credit
talking about
card?
gas, I'm sorry, purchase card.
Purchase card.
The credit card,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Is it something you want me to send an email and tell them that these are the cards that you have, can you explain why or something?
It would be nice to know, because that spreadsheet we got, it's either somebody got the wrong line or something, because someone
Well-
match up.
And that,
I thought so.
who I emailed said that, I can't remember what he said, it's the first line, so it's the line that, and
Some of the values I thought was way out of killer too, they were charged.
Oh, their limits?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ridiculous. Of course, they're probably never come to play, but.
How many council members attended last week, were they all there?
1, 2, 3, 4 plus the mayor,
Well, and you probably count as a clerk.
plus, is it Barbara?
Martha.
Yeah, she was there as well. So I think there were 6 total.
Ronnie and Jeff, Beaver, Kenny.
Wasn't there somebody new? They
Yeah,
said
there
that.
was a new commissioner, I didn't know who he was. They didn't introduce themselves.
They must have appointed somebody because they haven't had their elections yet. Their elections be coming up here in April.
Ronnie Myers called me about it because he asked somebody that Thad Damian has never gone to the meeting, so I don't know if he resigned or what.
Oh, so they kicked him.
But Ronnie asked him that he would like to visit, or he wants, you know, that he said they appointed somebody else.
He was a banker up in Troy.
What?
Yeah.
Thad
That
Damian?
Geiger.
Oh, Geiger.
Came to work on that name from.
Is he on the board?
He don't, that Geiger don't live right.
No, he lives in Troy.
No, I had the wrong person.
Thad used to live in that house where the big sister was.
Thad Damian?
No, that Geiger.
Oh, that Geiger.
He may, there's talk that he may become the new Secretary of Agriculture. He's working with Pekin, you know that.
No.
He's out of the bank up there.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and his daughter works there.
Yes, that's right,
She works for the Department of Ag.
well, she was
Is
living.
that Geiger in relation to the Martin Fraser meeting?
I don't know. Thad used to play ball for, baseball. Pretty player for the Benedictine.
I can get to the county clerk's office before 5, maybe, but
Yep, I don't think we got anything else. We'll see you on Monday. I think we're gonna have another proposal for our redistricting.
I think we are.
From one of the.
Well, the committee, the party committee chairman.
Republican?
We've heard.
More work? Does he want to split?
What's that?
Does he want to split some precinct?
I'll wait and see what his proposal, at one time I heard that he basically wanted
Split the town.
just to basically, yeah, the town be split up in thirds. So each commissioner had a third of the city. That's gonna take,
Because then is he going to sit down there and figure out which one could?
I don't think you gotta worry about it.
we'll just hear, but I mean, I thought we had a pretty simple and logical proposal.
I thought mine was pretty simple.
Well, yours
Got one-
actually fine tuned it, I mean, in all honesty, mine
it
was
was only-
simple, but yours was simple and better fine tuned.
Well, it's only 4 more blocks and you have,
And then you're almost
so equal.
Yeah, I know, I have no problem,
I heard that was, last night's previous, whatever you would put it was, when Gene Lee was the commissioner, and whoever else, and the commissioners in power, they wanted it split according to their political party
See, that's
or
what-
religion, and like, of course, Gene, that's how St. Benedict's and the Mounts all in one district, because Gene Lee was Catholic, and he wanted all the Catholics to vote for him, you know.
I don't pay it.
And that kind of stuff, or that was the theory of whatever. Plus a lot of those people are Democrats there, or they were.
Believe it or not, churches have a lot to do with your candidates.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, you
Pro-life.
you get into, when you start doing that, that's where you get into a lot of hard feelings. I mean, you start to draw a lot of funny lines, I mean, you know, what the heck.
But
You need to talk, you need to listen to your taxpayers. It doesn't matter if they're in your district or not.
Right, exactly. You have to answer to your district kind of first, but you're here, we're really here to work for everybody, I mean, the whole county, that's the whole idea, I mean, because there's gonna be issues